Greetings, my brothers and my sisters. How you doing out there? Uh, we're here once again by the grace of Jah Almighty to give you another uh, news and to give you another crispy documentary, crispy special. But it's with sadness that we have to announce that we heard of the passing of the pioneer reggae DJ toaster, some say MC, the great Europe Bedford, better known around the world as Euro. And Uruguay started out all the way back in 1961 with Sir Dickie's Dynamic, which was a sound system in Jamaica, a sound system operator in Jamaica. He was of Chinese extraction, and Euro got his big break there as a DJ toaster on the Dr. Dickie's Dynamic sound system, all the way back in 1961 as a 19-year-old. But Euro, as a young boy, always loved music. He was inspired by the great Count Machuki, who was Coxondo's #1 selector in the 1950s and the early part of the 1960s. And that's where he got all of those peps from, like chicka 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 bow wow wow, because before that, the DJ phenomenon hadn't really reached Jamaica properly yet. Coxon Dodd and other sound system operators, as I mentioned before, people like Drew Creed, King Edwards, Meritone, all of these sound system operators in Jamaica who operated sound systems would go to America, sent by the Jamaican government on farm work. And while they're out in America on farm work, places like Florida, New York, New Orleans, and places like that, they would pick up the latest records out there, the latest blues, jazz, rhythm and blues, soul records out there, and bring back and play on their sound system. And Coxon one day went out to America and he heard over the radio some jive talking going down, like, "I'm going to pass you back to the man, play it back from the track." And he wrote some of the peps down, some of the lines down, and gave it to two of his selectors, the #1 selector, which was Count Majuki, who inspired Uroy, and King Stitt, who was a DJ before Euro was a DJ. So Euro wasn't the first DJ, but he was the first DJ to bring the game onto another level when he started rapping around songs and interacting with the vocalists of a song. It was before that, when in Count Majuki's time and in King Stitt's time, they were just really doing it for the dance halls and for the sound systems, and they were just really announcing records, using the mic to announce records, the name of the song, the title, and the name, and so on. And they'll also use it to announce where the next dance will be kept. And so sometimes they would spice up the dances this way, and by incorporating pep talks and little noises and so on. But Uwe, inspired by Count Majuki, because he said he loved the way Count Majuki delivered, his repertoires, the sound system. It wasn't really a business at this time for DJs. All they were doing was just announcing records over the mic on the sound system. And so, like, as I mentioned just now, but Uwe took it onto another level. He wasn't the first DJ recorded, because before he was recorded, King Stick was recorded for Clancy Echoes and for Sir Coxon Dodd. And Count Majuki was recorded for Joe Gibbs and for Coxon Dodd as well. And then Euro was about the fourth DJ to be recorded, because you also had another DJ by the name of Sir Lord Comic as well. Sir Lord Comic, King Stitt. So Count Machuki, King Stitt, Sir Lord Comic, and so on. So Euro was about, say, the fourth DJ to be recorded around 1969, when he recorded his first single for the great Keith Hudson with Dynamic Fashion Way, which was a version of Ken Booth's Old-Fashioned Way, you see. And so, and then after that, this is where the phenomenon became a big business, because he did a single he did for Keith Hudson, which was Old-Fashioned Way, and so Dynamic Fashion Way. Then he went and did a song for Bunny Lee alongside Peter Tosh, Earth's Wife Really, which was a Rasta chant, really. He wasn't really toasting as such, he was just chanting on the song along with Peter Tosh, Rasta, like a Rasta Nai Bingy thing. And then when he went to Drew Creed now, it all hell broke loose, because he was really, what happened was, he was also a DJ and a selector for King Tubby's Hi-Fi. This is around 1966, 67, after he left Dr. Dickie's Dynamic. He went to work for King Tubby's, and King Tubby's, the same King Tubby's who cut dubs. He had a sound system in the 60s called King Tubby's Hi-Fi, and Euro was a selector on there. And one day, Roddy Woodford was a was also a sound system operator. He used to cut dub as well with King Tubby, and he was also very close with Duke Reid. And he got some of these dubs from Duke Reid and gave to Tubbies. I believe this is how the story goes. And then Tubbies now gave it to Euro, and Euro was toasting over them. And John Holt was in attendance that night at the sound system dance, where of course King Tubby's sound system was playing, and Euro is now the selector and the MC for for King Tubby's hi-fi. He witnessed what he was witnessing. What Euro doing was a mesmerizing. Never seen anything like this before. Where Euro rapping over these specials, if you like, vocals and specials from Duke Reid, because Duke Reid gave the dub, as I said, and then to Ruddy Rodford, and Ruddy Rodford gave it to King Tubby. And of course, naturally, Euro being on King Tubby's sound as the main selector and DJ would, rap around these dubs. And then when John Holt witnessed this, he said, wow, I've got to go back and tell Duke Reid about this, because this could be a new phenomenon within the industry, within the business. Never before have I seen a man rap around songs like this and incorporate his own peps and drive talks and so on. It was amazing. And so John Holt went up to Uroy and said to Uroy, look, you're amazing. I'm going to tell Duke Reid about you. Because at that time, John Holt was singing with the Paragons, and the Paragons were singing for Duke Reid at Treasure Isle. But Duke Reid was a fearsome ex-police officer, and he had a lot of guns around him. And Uroy said that he didn't want to record for Duke Reid initially because he was so scared and terrified of what Duke Reid might do with the guns. He thought he'd use the guns on him. And so, but anyway, after a bit of consideration, when John Holt went and told you, like he followed up, like he fulfilled his promise, like he said to Euro, that he would tell Duke Reid about what he just saw. And he did. And then when Duke Reid heard about this, after John Holt had told him what he'd seen Euro do at the dance for King Tubby, he said, I want to speak to Uroy. Find me Uroy. So they went and got Uroy, and Uroy reluctantly went to see Duke Reid at 33 Bond Street, where the studio was of Treasure Isle in Kingston. And he accepted an offer to record some songs there. He recorded about 30 sides for Treasure Isle. He was there for about maybe 1 year, recording for Duke Reid, for over 30 sides. And of course, another thing was to transpire. Another groundbreaking moment within the industry was to transpire when he had 3 number ones that year. Never before as a DJ had 3 number ones before. And he also had 1, 2, and 3 in the charts simultaneously. So number 1 was Wake the Town and Tell the People. I believe that was his first song, Wake the Town and Tell the People. Then he did Rule the Nation Reversion. Then he did Way to the Ball. Those were in the top 3, and they were all number ones eventually. And also with Ready to the Ball, not many people know this, with Ready to the Ball, which was of course the DJ piece to the Paragons, Ready to the Ball. Also, it was the first time that a DJ had interacted with vocals. Before that, all DJs would do was rap over the naked track, of course recorded, not in terms of the sound system, but in terms of recorded material. It was the first time that a DJ had interacted with a vocal. And so that Ready to the Ball was a very groundbreaking song in that sense. Never before was that ever witnessed before in recording. And so Euro set the trend. That's why he's called the teacher. That's why he's called the originator, because he originated the style. He spiced up the vocals and the music itself by saying wow wow wow, yeah yeah yeah. If you hit the pig, you never bring your walking stick, and so on and so on. And live the life you love. Live the life you love the life you live, and so on. Music is mine to give. I Believe went up my sleeve and came out on Christmas Eve. All those sort of whymings and jive talks and many, many more that, as some of you would know, and you've listened to Uroy over the years, you know his originality and his original style, which he brought to the record. Inspired by Count Majuki, like I said, Count Majuki said he used to look in a magazine called Swing. Swing was a Jamaican magazine, and inside the magazine would be like nursery rhymes, and it would be peps and like drive talking and so on. Similar to what Coxon had heard when he went to America that time, when he heard the DJ on the radio was saying something like, and he wrote them down and he gave it to King Stitt and Count Machuki. But Count Machuki said he read it and he saw it in the Swing magazine. And I believe King Stitt also said he saw it in there as well. And they used some of those drive talks and peps that they saw in the magazine of Swing to incorporate into their singing and into their repertoires. And that's where Euro got that from. You see, that's where he got those from, and he said Count Machuki was his idol because he never pulled a foot wrong. He was smooth, he was crisp, his delivery was first class, and so he was like his role model in the industry. And then he went on and initially imitated Count Machuki, but eventually he would go on to evolve his style because he listened to Uroy in the 1970s when he recorded for Virgin and for Prince Tony Robinson. His style is very different that time. Obviously, the music was going in a different direction because at that time you had flying cymbal, you had a flying cymbal sound, the hi-hat sound, the zzz, 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 zzz. And so, in order for you to keep up with the rhythm of the music, you had to speed up your delivery and change it and adjust it slightly. And that's what Euro was doing, and that's what Euro did. And many other people around that time followed suit. Hugh Brown, Trinity Dillinger. Mind you, Trinity and Dillinger mainly came from the big youth school, but people like Hugh Brown and one or two others, came from the Euro school, the drive talking business. And later on down the line, you had the likes of Charlie Chaplin, Josie Rels, Brigadier Jerry, and even people like his name kind of eludes me at this particular time. Rankin Trevor was another one. Rankin Trevor was probably the closest DJ to Euro. You also had imitations of Euro. His name was, of course, his name is Europe Bedford. He had a cousin who couldn't pronounce his name. So one day they were playing, and then he said, "Stop it, Uroy." And the name just stuck. But instead of saying Europe, he said Uroy. But his name is Europe Bedford, and of course, Uroy, the name just stuck. Sometimes it's spelled H-U-G-H. Sometimes it's just got the U and it's a Y. And so on. And then eventually afterwards, the likes of Iro came in the scene and used his name. But Iro actually has more claim to be called that because Iro is actually, Roy is actually his name. Roy Samuel Reed. Whereas Uroy hasn't got Roy in his name. But because the cousin could pronounce his name, he just said Uroy, and it kind of just stuck. And ever since then, the name Uroy is a legend, you see. And so we lost him on the 17th of February, which was last week Thursday. We're now on Tuesday the 23rd. So it was last week Thursday, I believe, we lost him, sadly. Last week Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday night, yeah, for 17th. And so sad to hear that we passed away. I mean, it took me a long time to do this video because I've been thinking. I mean, he's one of my idols. I remember the first time I saw a Uroy album was my father. He had a Version Galore album, the very first DJ album. So that's another groundbreaking moment as well. He's set so many trends. He's broken so many records, and the first DJ record, 1970, Treasure Our Records, Version Galore. You're gonna check that album out. And we had that album, we had the original album, and my father had it. And that's the very first time. And when I first heard Uroy's vocals and pep talk and jive talking on the radio, I was I had goosebumps because I thought, I never heard this before. I've only ever heard vocals or instrumentals. I was a little kid at the time, but I never heard somebody saying, yeah, 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 and wow, and that sort of thing on record. So I was scared. I was frightened. I was like gobsmacked. I said, what is this? Who is this? And I was very scared, and then after a while, I got used to it. My dad said, "Oh, it's a form of jive talk. It's a form of toasting." It was new to the music world at that time, and he explained to me what Euro was, what he stood for, what he done, and so on. And as time went on, my dad's friends would explain to me about who Euro was, and I started reading about him, and then and buying his records. When I started buying his records, and I started listening to him, and it became like second nature to me to listen to Euro. Then I started buying other DJs like Big Youth, Dennis Al Capone, Trinity Dillinger, and I got many of the DJs' albums here, and so on, and so it became second nature. And so I'm just so happy that a man like that existed because he's brought so much to the table, and he's inspired so many DJs. And all the DJs now were making music now really hold a lot of have to give him a lot of thanks and hold him a lot of homage, because he's the one who set the path. Even though he wasn't the first, but he's the first one to change the style and to make it a unique sound. And he was the first one to actually make it into a business, because before that, DJs weren't really, they were just seen as somebody who, like I said before at the start of the video, like Kingston and Count Machuki in the 50s and early 60s would just announce the dance and nice up the dance. How you doing out there, folks? Everybody all right? And then change the record. Oh, this is Sam Cooke now with Twisting the Night Away, and then put it on. Nobody was really spicing, there was no peps, there was no rhyming or nothing. It was just, and then someone's King's hitting the bridge of the song, well, but it was nothing. It wasn't throughout the whole song. But U-Roy changed the whole dynamic of it, and would rap around it, would rap around the song itself, and give drive talking and tell stories. And then later on, as I said, the first song that any DJ interacted with on record was the Paragons' Raid to the Border. And he interacts, you can hear, with the Paragons. Then with Phyllis Dillon, Don't Stay Away, on that same album, probably the best album ever, DJ. The first album I've ever seen from a DJ, and the first album ever made by a DJ. And so on, there you go. And then Euro said that he never allowed anybody to rip him off. He said when Drew Creed saw him and spoke to him about coming to record for Treasurer, he said that he told Drew Creed that he wanted to at least have a house and have a car and so on, and have some nice clothes. And Drew Creed ensured that he got that, you know. And then he said when he worked for King Tubby's wouldn't pay him, and so he couldn't stay there for long. He said whenever he works for you, he wants to be paid, and rightly so. And so I'm so happy that he's passed, and he hasn't passed a poor man, because so many of his luminaries have passed away penniless, and they're struggling. But he always made sure that he was paid. He's toured around the world, around Europe, around the world, and he said wherever he's touring, they have to pay him. And I'm so happy that he never, you know, he wasn't. Even though he said a couple of times he got ripped off, but you know, eventually he always got what he was more or less got his royalties, and he ensured that the producers and the record labels paid him, you know, the necessary royalties that he was due, and so on. And so, as I said, some of his greatest songs, Flash My Rip, you know, Only a Smile by the Paragons, that's the Flash My Rip version, you know, Double Six, where he did it for Lee Perry, one of these rare tracks. And as the style will go on, and because you know, as in Jamaican music, the styles change. They evolve. They evolve out of ska, rocksteady, reggae, roots, dub, steppers, rockers, into dancehall. U-Roy never stopped recording, and every era he adjusted to that era. So even in the dancehall period, he didn't record much songs in the dancehall period. He recorded maybe a couple of albums and a few sides. He was mostly touring at that time, and he also had his sound system. But anyway, before I don't want to lose my train of thought, he always ensured that he adjusted to the latest current style. A lot of DJs, they're out of business because they failed to adjust to the style. But U-Roy always adjusted to the style in question at that time, and that's one of the reasons why he had such long longevity, and why he was able to go for so long, been recorded for 50 years. And so that's the reason why he always adjusted to the time, you know. Yeah, and so he's recorded for many producers. He's recorded for Lee Perry, he's recorded for Bunny Lee, 90 the Observer, Joe Gibbs. He's recorded for so many producers. Even Prince Jasper had a label in the 80s called Ajama. He recorded for that label as well. He had a lot of imitators, as I was going to say before, on the scene when he came, because everybody wanted to be like him, because nobody had seen anything or heard anything like this before. And a lot of the youngsters at that time in 70s Jamaica, 60s, 70s Jamaica, he was an idol to them. He was like Bob Marley before Bob Marley became famous. And everybody, he even had people like Hugh Brown, who got some of his name, Hugh Brown. You had U-Roy Jr., you know. You had people sounding like him, this DJ sung for rap for Lee Perry. I think it's Teddy Brown. Yeah, he done a song called Illusion. Yeah, and he sounds just like U-Roy. And at first, they thought it was U-Roy, but it wasn't U-Roy. It was Teddy Brown. Yeah, because everybody wanted, because he was unique. Nobody had heard anything like this, so everybody wanted to be like him, to copy his vocality, to copy his sound, to copy his phrasing, and to also take some of his name. As I said, U-Roy Jr., Hugh Brown, and so many others. It was an astonishing accomplishment by a man like that. He said he had to, in the early days, he had to sneak out because his grandmother never wanted him to go out. He was very young at the time. He grew up with his grandmother. And he said that his grandmother would pull a curfew on him if she ever caught him going outside to sneak out to the dances. But he said he couldn't stay in. He said he had to be around the sound system because he loved the music. And so he'd sneak out, and if she caught him, he would have to stay outside and sleep outside until morning when she'd bring him in. But he said he didn't care. He said the song, his gratification and his biggest thrill was to go to a sound system and listen to the music, and so it also listen and watch Count Machuki, Coxsone Dodds dances. Count Machuki was operating, so Coxsone's #1 sound. To hear them, hear how, and to hear the music, and so he said that was what was keeping him going. And so, and then when you know, he said, I must be in this industry. I need to get into this industry. And that's where he met Sir Dr. Dickie's Dynamic. And that's where he became, his first musical job was to the number one sound, the number one DJ for Sir Dr. Dickie's Dynamic Sound in 1961. He was there for a few years and then went to King Tubby's Hi-Fi, and then Tubby's wouldn't pay him. So he kind of left Tubby's and went to as a freelance DJ, and then until he met Drew Creed, which took his career took off after that, 1970. And he recorded that groundbreaking album as well as many other sides for Drew Creed. He also recorded Black Ark, you know, Black Ark for Lloyd Chalmers, a great song, and so many other songs. And so we'll be here all day, all night talking about him. You know, we can't talk about it. I might have to do another show down the line, which I will do another show coming up. Euro's top 10 songs, or I might widen it to top 20. We'll see. But I'm definitely going to do a show around that very, very soon in the coming months. And so we say Daddy Uri, or Uri, Europe Bedford Uri, called Daddy Uri because he was a veteran in the game, so they started to call him Daddy Uri around the 80s. But before that, it was just Uri. We say thank you so much. We salute you, and we say, you know, I don't like to say rest in peace because he's still here with us. I just like to say rest well, and we'll see you. We'll see you one day, Daddy Uri. Thank you so much for what you've done for us. Thank you so much for letting other DJs, you know, get a chance and opportunity to record and to make this into a career for themselves. You know, I can't think of anything else to say. You know, as I said, I'll try and do another show, another documentary, another video around Uri down the line. But I say thank you so much, sir. I love you so much. And I say thank you to my father and my father's friends and my grandfather who introduced me to Uri, had his records and got me inspired to go out and buy, when I was old enough, to buy my own Uri and DJ records and reggae records in general. So thank you so much. I say God bless. Big up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Chrissy B. Emotive. Spread the word, like, share, subscribe. Blessed love, peace and honor. Oh yeah, and he's going to be buried. He's already been buried, and hopefully he's buried, and he's going to be in the Eros section. So we just say thank you so much. And he passed away via a heart attack. He was supposed to go into dialysis because he had problems with his kidneys. And in 1991, he contracted, I believe, diabetes, but he's coped with it ever since. But the last few years he's been a bit poorly, to be honest. He hasn't recorded anything since 2018. I think he was on tour last year, but he wasn't. And when he was crowned recently King of the Dancehall, as you can see, Shabba Ranks was there with him. He was a bit poorly, but we thought that he wasn't going to be anything serious, but unfortunately he succumbed. 78 years of age, still young. He could have gone on some more. But we say thank you so much. We salute you, and blessed love, one love, guidance.